For the longest time, Greenland was just this huge, remote island of ice, kind of on the edge of the world. But now, it's suddenly at the dead center of a new global power struggle, a modern great game being played by the world's biggest superpowers. So let's get right into it, because the answer here is this fascinating mix of military strategy, huge technological ambitions, and a nation's own quest for independence. So what's the deal? Why is everyone all of a sudden so obsessed with this giant island of ice? Well, for starters, just look at where it is. Greenland isn't just big, it's this massive natural fortress sitting right on North America's doorstep. And that proximity? That's the first huge piece of this puzzle. And believe me, this isn't just some think tank theory. The interest from these global powers has shot up like really fast. We're talking about a shift from just watching from the sidelines to making very public, very strategic moves. So let's just walk through this timeline, because it really shows you how things have ramped up. It kicks off in 2018, right? China tries to get in on expanding the airports. That's a classic infrastructure play. A year later, the U.S. makes its interest very, very direct. By 2021, the U.S. is putting actual money on the table, and now a special envoy. See what I mean? This isn't just chatter. These are deliberate, calculated moves. So the big question is why? And the first and maybe the most powerful reason is a classic one. It's all about location, location, location. Think about it. The Arctic is basically a new corridor for competition, right? In Greenland, it's the gatekeeper. It's the stepping stone right into North America. If you control this spot, you pretty much control the access. Now, this slide really gets to the heart of who the West is watching. On one side, you've got Russia. They're an Arctic nation, and they're not only militarizing their coast, but they're also getting these new, faster shipping routes because the ice is melting. Then you've got China, and this is fascinating. They're calling themselves a near-Arctic state, even though they're thousands of miles away. And they're putting their money where their mouth is, pouring cash into places like nearby Iceland. All of this competition brings a really important kind of old-school Cold War term roaring back to life, and that's the GIUK gap. Okay, so if you look at this map, the GIUK gap, that's the stretch from Greenland over to Iceland and then to the UK, that was the choke point. That's how NATO kept an eye on Soviet subs back in the day. Now, let's fast forward. Finland and Sweden are in NATO now. So look at that map again. Suddenly, Russia is almost completely boxed in by NATO countries in the Arctic. And that makes Greenland's job as that western anchor of the line, well, it makes it more critical than ever. But, controlling the seas, that's only half the story here. The other reason for this huge geopolitical scramble isn't on the surface at all. It's what's buried deep under all that ice. We are talking about an absolute treasure trove of strategic resources. And we're talking about something called rare earth elements, or REEs for short. Now, the name's a little misleading. They're not that rare. But what they are is absolutely essential for, well, everything. The magnets in your EV or in wind turbines, the guts of your smartphone, the most advanced military gear, all of it depends on these metals. They are literally the building blocks of our modern world. And here is the big problem for the West. This chart says it all. China has an iron grip on the global supply chain. We're talking about 85% of production and refining. That's not just a market share, that's a massive strategic vulnerability. And all of that brings us to one specific spot in southern Greenland that could potentially flip the entire script. It's a mineral deposit called Tanbreez. Okay, get ready, because this is the real aha moment. Just look at the row for HREs percent. HREs are the really valuable ones. Tanbreez is sitting on 27%. That's off the charts high compared to the others. But, and this is the absolute key, now look at the uranium content row. It's very low. That other big Greenlandic deposit, Kvanefjeld, it's bogged down in regulatory nightmares precisely because of its high uranium content. So you've got this incredible combination, super high-value metals and almost no radioactive junk. That's what makes Tanbreez a total game changer. So let's just break it down. Why is Tanbreez so special? 1, it is loaded with the heavy rare earths, the exact ones the West is desperate for. 2, it avoids that whole radioactive byproduct issue that kills so many other projects. And 3, and this is huge, it already has its exploitation license, approved back in 2020. This thing is ready to go. It's a uniquely viable, uniquely strategic asset. But here's the thing. In this great game between all these superpowers, there's one player who actually holds all the most important cards,
and that's the people of Greenland. We have to remember, this isn't just a slab of ice and rock. It's a nation, home to about 57,000 people who have their own ambitions. And ultimately, they're the ones who are going to decide what happens next. Look, Greenland has been on this long road to sovereignty for a while now. They got self-rule way back in '79, and since 2009, they've officially had the right to declare full independence. The will is there, for sure, but the economic reality, that's tough. The country relies heavily on a big annual subsidy from Denmark. So for a lot of Greenlanders, developing these incredible mineral resources, it's not just about money. It's seen as maybe the only realistic path to real financial and political independence. So from the US point of view, it's pretty clear-cut. It's about securing a strategic advantage. The Department of Defense says its network of allies is its cornerstone in the Arctic. And having a secure, friendly Greenland is absolutely central to that strategy. It's pure strategic calculation.
But then, you have Greenland's perspective, and it is powerful. It's summed up perfectly in their official motto, "Nothing about us without us." It's a crystal clear message. Greenlanders, and only Greenlanders, will decide their future. They have zero interest in being a passive pawn in someone else's chess game.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. This isn't just some abstract geopolitical game being played on a remote island. This is about a nation's choice. Will Greenland manage to leverage its incredible position and resources to become a fully independent nation, a real powerhouse in the global economy? Or will it get swallowed up, becoming a pawn in the very great game being played out on its own land? The future of the Arctic, and honestly, a big piece of our own technological future, really hangs on how they answer that question.